The morning wakes to someone insistently holding down the buzzer, and Akechi takes a moment to glance at the bedside clock. 10:30 in the morning. Ugh, after so long being dead, he's half forgotten what it felt like to wake up. He's never been a morning person, instead always preferring to work late nights instead of early morning. It didn't help, Akechi thinks with a grimace, that yesterday's clothes are sticking to his skin with an unpleasant, grimy feeling, and his mouth smelt like something died in it. He's entirely too tired to deal with this mess, but he gets up anyway and shuffles to the door. It's a little refreshing to not care about his appearance, now that he's not the second coming of the detective prince yet. What is it? Have you packed your bags? Comes a booming voice, and Akechi manages to blink through his blurred eyes to see the wide, muscled shoulders of one of Shido's goons, a walking stereotype of a bodyguard in a black suit, sunglasses, and a bald head nearly touching the doorframe. Ah, yes. Give me a moment. I'll be back shortly, Akechi replies on instinct, before slamming the door shut. Well, as many flaws as Shido had, he couldn't say that one of them was inefficiency. Scrubbing his face with a tired hand, Akechi lets himself have a small moment of self-pity before decisively going back to the kitchen for a few spare plastic bags. There wasn't much he owned. Shoving a few sets of clothing in one of the bags and his school stuff in another, Akechi's ready to go in seconds. Shogaku dorms are off campus. The goon marches him forward the moment he steps out of the apartment, snappily holding the 2 plastic bags for him and waving him into a waiting car, before sliding in behind him. Shiro-san wishes to inform you that all of your paperwork has been passed and you will be staying in the dorms as an emancipated minor. This is your card for your stipend. The man passes him an envelope, which Akechi slides into a pocket. Shiro-san also wishes to inform you the first experiment will be next Sunday at 7 p.m. at the same place as before. Do not be late. Akechi nods and lets the rest of the car ride pass in silence. The morning traffic is kind, at least. It doesn't take them long to get there. The dorms are in a small street out of the way of the main road, and a few bicyclists on the side of the road swerve out of the way for the car, now strangely unwielding, to lumber on through. There are a few trees in the courtyard, with flower beds lining the covered walkway that leads to the glass doors of the dorm. Bushido's man hurries Akechi forward with a stern face when he wants to linger a little bit to observe it all closer. The automatic doors are unlocked, and they whoosh open in a wash of cold air to reveal the friendly-looking foyer, lined with small coffee tables and colourful chairs, obviously meant to be a small social or study area. There's a small office with an open glass wall on the side, and the old woman sitting inside drinking a cup of warm tea notices their entry immediately. "Hello!" she greets, high and a little reedy as she moves as quickly as she can towards them, out of the office and stopping in front of them to give a small conservative bow in greeting. Akechi quickly bows back, although Shido's goon just stands there, an eternal glower on his face. "Hello, I'm Goro Akechi. It's very nice to meet you." The old woman laughs with her whole body, smile lines carved deep in her face as a testament to a satisfied life. It's impossible not to feel a little warmed by the smile she shoots them, and Akechi lets his own smile warm a few more degrees in response. "I'm Issei Saito, the landlord. It's very nice to meet such a nice young man as you, Akechi-kun," she smiles, before it cools a little as she looks at the bodyguard behind him. "I've heard about your circumstances. You don't need to worry about a single thing while you're here." That gives him a pause, before the smile on his face stretches a little farther. "Thank you, Saito-san." His politeness obviously makes her happy, her eyes folding into crescents as she leads them both towards her office. "Your arrival was quite abrupt, but thankfully a group of kids from Kosai recently moved out because of internships in other prefectures." Saito's chatter is friendly as she pushes open her office. Akechi automatically builds a profile from a glimpse of a private space. There are childish doodles that are proudly displayed on the walls, the art stars implying at least 3 grandchildren. At least one older than 12. There is a photo frame that features Saito alongside her husband, with 2 beaming women with babies in their arms. The place is clean, and there's half-finished knitting that she had obviously put down to greet them. A normal, rather warm, family-oriented person. Community-oriented, too, since Akechi spots a half-hidden basket of knitted toys under her desk that holds the telltale sticker of a nearby children's hospital on the side. She heads to a rack of keys hung on the wall, giving Akechi a look over her shoulder. There are 3 single rooms available right now, 1 on the 2nd floor and 2 on the 3rd, but if you want a larger room, there's still a boy up on the 5th floor that doesn't have a roommate. "He'll have a single room," interrupts the bodyguard as he crosses his arms. Saito gives him an unimpressed glance before looking at Akechi with a smile. "Well, dear, the single room on the 2nd floor sounds great, Saito-san." "All right, the 2nd floor room it is," she smiles, snatching a key from the rack and waving the two over. Akechi follows, but the man behind him taps him on the shoulder and gives him back the 2 plastic bags. I must leave. Do not forget to arrive next week. He leaves without waiting for an answer, hand already on his ear and obviously onto his next job. Akechi is left with 2 plastic bags in his hands, and Saito, who has paused on the stairs in the foyer, watching with a frown and pursed lips. When he joins her, she gives him a pat on the arm and leads him upward. The second floor is the only one which is reached by a staircase, Saito explains, leading him upwards and going down the resulting hallway illuminated by fluorescence. Number 205, if you have any issues with plumbing or replacements, just come down and tell me. I'm here from 9 to 5, from Mondays to Saturdays. I don't mind a chat either. She smiles as she hands him the key. The door is locked by 5 p.m. Use the tag on the key to beep yourself in if you're later than that, okay? No problem, Saito-san. I'm sure I'll settle down smoothly. After a few more pleasantries, the old lady slowly goes back down the stairs, and Akechi heads inside. A small shoe area with a few cupboards and bag hooks. A toilet shower combo to his left in the small hallway before opening to a bright room with a bed, and a desk, and a stretch of floor between the two. A window looking out into the neighborhood shines directly into his eyes as he closes the door behind him, and Akechi shucks off his shoes and chucks his 2 bags onto the floor. Then he flops a little undignified onto the hardwood and breathes for the first time. The floor is cool under his back, and he finds himself staring at the air conditioning vents. They're a little old, but white and clean. This time, Shido couldn't have bugged the place. The very fact Saito had offered him a choice of rooms told him that. The room is pleasant too. He lets his eyes wander the space. Some spots where the paint is a little darker because the previous tenant stuck some photos up by the size of the shadow, and the peachy tone of the wall lights up the whole room in a near golden hue. Although his past apartment had been bigger and designed in professional colours befitting how close the apartment was to the business blocks, the loss of professionalism for this peach pink is surprisingly okay, even though he knew if he was actually 15 he'd want something more adult. At least there are no memories to make anything about this new home bitter. The faint smell of perfume tells him a girl was the previous tenant, a hint of jasmine that lingers in the air that'll fade away soon enough. Akechi is tempted to doze off, but he forces himself up to take a shower and brush his teeth, putting on a casual combo of a hoodie that he doesn't remember owning, along with a pair of jeans. He shoves the rest of his belongings where they belong before heading out. In the mirror on the back of the door, Akechi looks like the disheveled teen he had always disdained to never be, and he couldn't help but keep a laugh inside, towing shoes on. Let's familiarise himself with the Tokyo of the past again. His metanav beeps in all of the familiar places as he walks the familiar streets of Shibuya. The Sunday afternoon filling the streets, with all sorts of laughing teens and families heading to who knows where. Restaurants and cafes are filled to the brim with people resting from the heat during lunchtime, and Akechi finds himself weaving through the crowds without much destination in mind. Last time he had always been willingly on call. There are no breaks, he realised with Minato's gentle concern, when you cling on to something as desperately as he did. When desperation hits a certain point, a person can even become eager to do anything they can to maintain the status quo. Last time, on weekends where he was allowed some time off, he usually cruised through Tokyo's most famous spots to keep up with the trends, making meticulous notes in his notebook so that he had a conversational topic on hand for anyone he encountered. Shido also approved when he could entertain any adult associates appropriately, and he burned with vicious pride when he exceeded expectations there, at least. Those habits weren't helpful now, of course. Akechi didn't even have a food blog to post on. The workaholic in him feels a little sketchy just wandering around with no purpose, a nagging sense that he could use his time better. But when his stomach grumbles, he finds that he's already wandered to... Maybe it was inevitable, he thinks with a humourless laugh. The small bell jingles when he enters Café Leblanc. Nothing's changed. Except the lack of sayuri on the wall, the smell of curry and coffee, the seats, even Sojiro Sakura at the counter cleaning glasses, it's all the same. A deep "welcome" is his only gruff greeting, and Akechi folds himself into a seat after ordering a plate of Leblanc special curry. He's the only customer inside right now, the only other sounds coming from the fans spinning slowly on the ceiling and the TV deeper inside. If he closes his eyes, it's Akira at the counter absent-mindedly stirring the pot of curry and ladling it out onto a plate, putting it down in front of him with a smile, that little mischievous edge generally reserved for the phantom thieves. His curly hair sometimes curled even more when exposed to steam, glasses a little fogged up. A memory of a moment of tentative peace. Akira hadn't asked any questions, letting slip inane details about Morgana, school, exams now and again, through the clink of washing glasses. Footsteps round the bar towards him. Akira carefully manoeuvring because he always poured too much curry onto Akechi's plate when he ordered, as always.
Your curry,
came the low tone of Sojiro. Akechi opens his eyes and smiles. Thank you, he replies, and digs in. It's peaceful here, and LeBlanc is close enough to his dorm this time that perhaps he can come more often. Akechi savours the moment before heading to the counter and paying the bill. He exits the cool interior of the cafe to balmy air again. Tokyo not having cooled an iota, even though the sky is starting to get shot through with pink. He muses. He's relaxed enough, and he's gotten used to his 15-year-old body. Time to get to business. First, he goes to a nearby bank and pulls out his whole weekly allowance in cash. He knows more than anyone, as a former detective, that your credit history can teach you way more than you'd expect. If it's available, it's obvious with a glance what a person is like merely by their purchases. A modest person would mostly have their purchases in food and basic utilities. People more flamboyant may visit specialty stores and brands, and it shows how much they care about trends by how frequently they go to the store. What they buy are clear hints to what influences them in their daily lives as well. If they frequently overdraw their credit card or make purchases that are greater than their financial means, it often means irresponsibility, or of some other major event in life that they might need a distraction from. What type of foods did they eat? Where did they go to during the day? Writing up a schedule of habits and quirks can be easy through looking at spending habits over a few months. Too many things can be read. Shido's every provision in that contract had been a trap. Akechi's entire financial status right now is dependent on him, and the only money he has available comes from the card. A card that ultimately belongs to Shido, who has full unrestricted access to analyse every single purchase he'll ever make. When he was actually 15, he had fallen into this trap easily. Well, Akechi thought absent-mindedly while queuing for the ATM, eyes on a bird that landed on a lamppost nearby. Not this time. The wad of cash is quickly put into a newly bought wallet, and he bothers to walk a few streets to his favourite clothing store. The clerk is obviously confused at a scruffy teenager coming into a store dedicated to the upper middle class, but a mixture of well-placed smiles, compliments and lies brings her to Akechi's side, recommending outfits in no time. Your father wants you to buy something suitable for a sort of business casual interview, right? The clerk hums. Bright lipstick stark against her pale face. A quick assessment shows her nails are carefully manicured and her hair is kept professionally in a bun, all colours carefully matched with her glasses. Personal care is obviously something important to her, paired with a good business ethic. Any recommendations of style will be well thought out. Yes, Akechi says bashfully. Well, as you can see, he waves vaguely to his hoodie and jeans. I'm not really used to stuff like that, but my dad had to go on a business trip, so I have to prepare myself. Don't worry, I can pay. He adds the last bit in a fluster, and the lady gives him a sympathetic look. Honey, don't worry. You're in safe hands, she says. You should be around this size. The next 20 minutes have them bustling around colour choices. The shop clerk matches Akechi's expectations, choosing the more earthy tones that his professional stylists had back when he had to do TV appearances. They ultimately end up with Akechi wearing a comfortable shirt and pants combo with a well-cut jacket to complement the look. The style is a bit young but acceptable, and Akechi happily hands over the cash needed for the outfit. His old clothes are placed in a plastic bag. If I'm going to recommend something, hun, the clerk smiles, I'd get a haircut if I were you. There's a really good place with pretty cheap prices around the corner. Thank you very much, he smiles shyly, fidgeting with his collar. I'll do as you say. Good luck on your interview, she calls, but he's already walked out the door. On the street, he lets himself savour the familiar feeling of a good jacket despite the heat. The slight stiffness aside, it's familiar and comforting. It's with confidence that he steps into the hairdresser's, his smile bright even as the overpowering chemical smell of hairspray and shampoo floods his nose. Hello, I was wondering if there were any availabilities for an impromptu haircut?
Oh, come in!
The hairdresser drops her phone onto her counter and nearly bounds her way to Akechi.
It's been a quiet afternoon today. What are you looking for?
It's for an interview and I haven't kept up my hair for a while. Akechi fakes a grimace and the hairdresser bobs her head.
I see. Well,
she squints as she quickly seats him in front of a mirror.
You have beautiful hair and bone structure to match. I'll see what I can do.
What comes out is a little shorter than he imagined for himself. not as short as Akira's hair, but definitely not brushing the shoulders as it had before. But Akechi figures it'll grow. "Thanks," he says as he gives the required payment. "I feel more confident for my interview already."
Go get him, Tiger.
The hairdresser shoots him a double thumbs up, and Akechi only smiles again and walks away, letting the smile slip into something more unassuming as he wades through the afternoon crowd. He adjusts the collar of his coat and brushes his new clothing down when he reaches the police headquarters. Now his true goal. "I heard there was an internship offer available for people still in school." When the reception counter looks at Akechi's impeccable dressing and polite smile, she softens a little, just as he knew she would. Micah-san always had a soft spot for kids and young people, especially well-behaved ones, and she was only going to leave her job a few months before he dies. "Yes, there's a new program for the General Police Program. The availability is up online, as well as the requirements for it." Micah grunts a little as she bends down to get some paperwork that she offers to him. "But if you want more information, here's a list of available opportunities we have for students and graduates." Akechi takes the list with a smile, and noting no one behind him, keeps standing there as he scans the list. He's not here to make connections with the General Police. There should be an opportunity posted around now, in June 2014, but there isn't. Akechi smooths over his frown, looking up with a slightly bewildered smile. May I ask, are there any opportunities with the investigations department? I've always admired detectives, you see, and so... Micah takes back the page and scans it herself. "Well, I suppose it can't hurt to tell you. I've heard from the grapevine that there might be a new internship for the investigations department that might start soon, but you'll have to wait and see." "Oh, I see." Akechi's reply is slightly disappointed, and Micah gives a sympathetic noise. "Well... it should be posted soon on the website. Here, I'll write it down for you." She quickly scribbles out a link and hands it over to him, and Akechi takes it with 2 hands. "Thank you very much," he exclaims, exchanging a few more pleasantries before leaving the center. It's verging on darkness as he steps into Tokyo's commute. Still as crowded as ever, his families start leaving and their younger counterparts take to the streets. A nearby convenience store has a few onigiri that he buys for dinner, and he absent-mindedly eats them as he heads back to the dorm. Checking the website might be a little hard since he doesn't have a computer. How much does a laptop cost again? The next few days he decides the computers in the school library suffice for now, and Shogaku's facilities do not disappoint. He lets the days pass as he waits. Most of the students here are well-mannered and stick to their own social circles. At the start of the year, Akechi made sure to mingle with the absolute minimum of benign nicety that didn't get him far into their circles, but friendly enough. It leaves him time to think and plan as he listened with half an ear in class to make sure he knew the material. It's Wednesday when he sees anything change on the website Micah gave him. An offer at the prosecutor's office, standard application procedures apply, CV, 2-page address, etc., etc. He's pre-written everything and scanned it onto a USB, and it's a moment's job to submit it all. Last time, being a detective prince was only logical. There were 3 main reasons. First, Shido's many contacts in the prosecutor's office made it easy to achieve. Secondly, Shido wanted to control the government's response towards the increased buzz in the public about the mental shutdown, so nothing could link how convenient some of those deaths were to Shido's cause and hurt his presidential bid. Third, Akechi needed to have more presence in the public to get deeper into Mementos anyway. Having Akechi controlling the cases for the mental shutdowns and simultaneously gaining fame as a young genius suited both their needs, Shido for convenience, and Akechi for his new addiction for approval. And even now, despite knowing how it all had ended, in the end, Akechi had liked being a detective. It's a case of parental abuse. Akechi once let slip to Akira when they accidentally bumped into one another in Shinjuku. "Sorry if I'm a little tired today. We've settled the facts for now, and I'm sure we have enough evidence, but the judge has always been partial to mothers and women, and we're not sure if she'll get indicted even if she did starve her son into prolonged hospitalization." Akechi had winced inside, the conversation edging onto territory a little too genuine for his tastes, scolding himself for falling into Akira's rhythm so easily. There was an air of trustworthiness in Akira, a steadiness that no one could stop being attracted to. "The path of justice never did run smoothly," Akira replied after a short pause, before tilting his head slightly and peering at Akechi over his glasses. "You're the detective prince? I know you'll work it out. But more than that, believe in yourself, Akechi." A car honked in front of them alongside a healthy splash of rainwater that threatened to reach their shoes, swallowing the rest of what Akira had said. A hot flash of annoyance coursed through Akechi even as he simultaneously felt a frisson of pride from the confidence in Akira's tone. This time, he'd worked just as hard as Sai. His smile was genuine that time as he tore his gaze away from Akira's face and looked down. Well, I'm hardly the detective you think me to be, but thank you anyway, Akira. Akira bumped his shoulder to his, and Akechi tried not to flinch back at the contact. There was a raindrop that had caught the ends of one of Akira's curls, he remembers, threatening to drip down onto his lazy curl of a smile. He'd wanted to. His hands started moving. But Akira started talking, grey eyes looking forward as they neared another road. Tell me if you need help. You know we'll back you up. There are many things he wants to change in this second life of his. One of them is the fact that Shido had kept his detective Prince on such a short leash, banning him from doing any more cases by keeping him within the circles of corrupt police, and stopping him from knowing anyone who had the power to recommend him on his talents he knew he had outside of Shido's influence. Sai and he had bonded because of this, being so noticeably suppressed by the superiors. As few real cases as he had seen, the ones that he had helped solve had filled him with a confidence that didn't flicker as hard as the applause that came from a live audience during a TV show. And although this may be presumptive of him, Akechi wants to be Akira's justice again. True rivals, this time. It's a little romantic, isn't it? A detective and a hidden phantom thief, friends in real life, fighting for different ideals in another. In the end, they find that their justice is the same when the truth reveals the two to each other, like Feathermen are, and those shonen mangas who fought for their friends. Perhaps this time he could be a worthier rival. The corner of Akechi's mouth ticked upwards involuntarily. And by taking initiative, perhaps being a detective wouldn't be another favour given from Shido's all-encompassing hand. The lunch bell rings then, and the students all around him stand up to prepare to go back to class. He does the same, closing all the tabs and logging out, filing behind all these other students with his benign smile back on his face. Mind already whirring forward to Sunday, now that his current goal had been fulfilled. Shido's experiments with him and the metaverse. Akechi nods to a classmate who held open the door for him, settling back at his desk and pulling out his mathematics textbook. Humming in thought. Little flickers of ideas flit through his mind. Some kept, some discarded, some allowed to roam a little further to develop even as the teacher enters, starting to lecture on geography. His pen taps absent-mindedly on his notebook as he looks out the window over a sun-drenched Tokyo. He needs a plan.